Have you ever imagined going 72 hours without touching your phone? No notifications, no endless scrolling, no compulsive checking of messages, emails, or social media. It's hard to picture, I know. We're so intertwined with our devices that many times we forget what it's like to live without them. The phone has become an extension of the body, a constant presence, an automatic reflex of the hands. But what if, for a moment, you gave yourself the chance to disconnect, so you could finally reconnect with what truly matters? This pause wasn't an impulsive decision. It came from a quiet burnout, a fatigue that wouldn't be solved by a night's sleep or a cup of tea. I felt anxious, my mind scattered, and I realized that part of that exhaustion came precisely from what I carried in my pocket all the time. So I decided, 72 hours without a phone, what seemed like an almost impossible challenge, ended up becoming one of the most revealing periods of my life. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, about what I discovered in that stretch of silence and presence, and how it can transform, even if slowly, your routine as well. We live at a fast pace. The notifications don't stop. Messages, updates, reminders, likes, everything flashing, buzzing, demanding immediate attention. Digital life has become an incessant cycle of stimulus and response, and in this constant flow, it's easy to lose ourselves. This state of hyperconnection isn't just a hallmark of our time, it's also a silent source of wear and tear. With each interruption, our brain has to start over. With each alert, the body braces as if something urgent were happening. Little by little, fatigue builds up, even if we don't notice it. It was within this reality that I began hearing about the so-called digital detox, a term that may sound trendy but is already widely studied in the well-being literature. It's a deliberate pause in the use of digital devices, especially those that stimulate constant interaction like phones and social media. The motivation is simple: restore balance. In my case, the desire was to ease anxiety, sleep better, and reconnect with myself and with the people around me. It was also a call for silence, not external silence, but the inner kind. That space that opens up when the screen's noise fades. That's when I decided to try it. 3 full days, no apps, no digital distractions, just time, presence, and whatever emerged in that space of pause. What I found there, I'll tell you in a moment. On the night before the detox began, I admit I felt a bit of apprehension. My phone felt like a link to the world, and the idea of setting it aside gave me a slight tightness in my chest. But I was determined. I started preparing with care, like someone organizing a small retreat. I let the people close to me know I'd be offline for 3 days. Only for real emergencies. I turned off notifications. I put the device in airplane mode and left it outside the bedroom. I chose to stay home, but created a more welcoming environment, less artificial light, more nature, more quiet. A space where time could breathe. The first hours were strange. I felt my body reach for the phone by reflex, as if my fingers were addicted to the motion of swiping the screen. This restlessness had a name: FOMO, the fear of missing out, and beyond that, the so-called nomophobia, anxiety, triggered simply by not having the phone nearby on the first day. I felt discomfort. My thoughts scattered. Questions arose. Did someone need me? Am I forgetting something important? It was as if my attention, for years, had been shaped to respond to the digital, and now it no longer knew where to land. But then, on the second day, something changed. My mind began to slow down. Thoughts, once so fragmented, started to arrange themselves with more clarity. I noticed small things: the sound of water in the filter, the smell of coffee wafting through the house, the gentle movement of the leaves outside. My breathing found a calmer rhythm, and time seemed to expand. I started writing by hand. I read without hurry. I went out for a walk and looked around attentively. For the first time in a long while, I was present, truly. On the 3rd day, I felt lighter. There were still moments when I wanted to check the phone, of course, but they came with less force. In their place, something new emerged: a sense of autonomy. as if I had reclaimed an inner space that had previously been too crowded. This 72-hour pause didn't take me away from the world. It gave me back to myself. What I experienced during those 72 hours without a phone wasn't just a subjective feeling. What happens in our body and mind during a digital detox is already being widely investigated by science. And the results are, at the very least, revealing. A study conducted by researchers in Germany brought together 25 young adults and proposed a challenge. Restrict phone use exclusively to essential tasks, such as urgent calls or using GPS for 72 hours. During that period, participants underwent functional MRI scans that record brain activity in real time. The results showed something surprising: significant changes in areas linked to reward and self-control. The same regions activated during addiction processes, such as the dopaminergic system, responded to the absence of the phone in a way very similar to what happens in substance withdrawal. The brain, deprived of the screen's constant stimuli, had to recalibrate its chemistry, and that effort activated networks tied to impulse control and emotional regulation. In other words, the nervous system began to reorganize, seeking a new balance without the constant presence of immediate digital rewards. This finding is supported by other research. A recent review published in reputable scientific databases showed that short periods of digital detox, 3 to 5 days, are already capable of reducing compulsive behaviors related to smartphone use, and the effects can last up to 2 weeks after a gradual return to normal use. The explanation lies in how digital stimuli affect our neurotransmitters. Each notification triggers a release of dopamine, the so-called reward hormone. The more notifications, the more reinforcement. This creates a cycle of seeking constant stimulation that weakens our tolerance for boredom, for waiting, for silence. By cutting those stimuli, even temporarily, we give the brain a chance to restore its natural sensitivity, as if we returned to hearing the sound of the inner world, muffled by the excess of external stimuli. Another important point revealed by the studies is the detox's influence on sleep quality. Constant exposure to blue light from screens, especially at night, affects melatonin production, the sleep hormone. By reducing phone use, especially before bed, the body can return to producing melatonin more evenly, enabling deeper, more restorative sleep. And it doesn't stop there. Neuroscience also shows that the digital pause strengthens brain areas linked to introspection, memory, and sustained attention. This means that by disconnecting from distractions, we can reactivate cognitive functions that had been dormant. Perhaps that's why, during my detox, I felt clearer, calmer, more connected to the present. Science confirms it's not just a feeling, there's a real biological basis behind this transformation. And that, in itself, already says a lot. Our daily behavior is shaped, in large part, by the stimuli around us, and few things influence us as much as the phone. Just a sound, a slight vibration in the pocket, and our attention shifts. Often, without realizing it, we are drawn in by notifications that seem small, but when combined, they fragment our focus and alter our emotional state. A study conducted with participants who spent 24 hours with notifications completely turned off revealed something interesting. Without the constant alerts, distraction dropped significantly. People reported greater productivity, more mental clarity, and an increased ability to stay focused on simple tasks like reading, cooking, or writing. However, along with this, some also reported mild social anxiety, a feeling of being off the radar, as if they might miss something important by not responding right away. This finding shows a real ambivalence. While we free ourselves from interruptions, we also face the fear of disconnection. This fear is understandable. We've been conditioned to respond quickly, to be available all the time. But precisely for this reason, the pause becomes so valuable, because it allows us to observe this pattern and question it. Over the course of 3 days without a phone, I noticed this contrast clearly. At first, a subtle anxiety would arise. But, over time, I began to notice a new behavior emerging. I started dedicating myself to activities that once seemed unimportant. Reading a book without checking the time, listening to music without skipping tracks, talking without the distraction of notifications lurking nearby. Many studies point to this behavioral redirection. When we remove the phone from the equation, our brain naturally seeks other ways to fill the time, and, surprisingly, it chooses calmer, more present activities. Walks, reading, gardening, real-life encounters. Neuropsychology describes this as behavioral migration. The habit of checking the phone is replaced by more intentional actions. This slows the mental pace and increases the sense of personal control, something deeply beneficial for emotional health. In addition, without the constant comparison of social media, self-criticism decreases. With fewer perfect images on the screen, our mind relaxes. And in that space, a more honest connection with who we really are emerges. The pause, then, is not just for resting. It helps us remember what is essential. By the end of the 72 hours, something inside me had changed. It wasn't sudden, nor a revolution. It was something subtle, yet profound. Like a fog slowly lifting, revealing what had always been there, but that I could no longer see. One of the first benefits I noticed was sleep. For the first time in months, I slept deeply. I woke without that feeling of a restless mind, as if my head had truly rested. Without the screen's light before bed, my body seemed to understand it was time to switch off. And it rested. Another change was in my breathing. I noticed that, away from notifications, my chest felt less tight. The anxiety that always lingered like a constant background gave way to a new calm. Thoughts flowed more lightly. Silence stopped being uncomfortable and became a refuge. Time, once scarce, expanded. I was able to dedicate myself to simple things, like eating a meal with full attention, listening to someone I love with presence. Looking out the window without the urge to open an app, this presence transformed everyday moments into small rituals of connection. These effects weren't just personal impressions. Studies confirm that during a digital detox, physiological stress levels drop. Heart rate tends to decrease, and heart rate variability, an indicator of nervous system balance, improves. Reduced exposure to blue light from screens improves sleep quality and the body's natural production of melatonin. There's also evidence of improved mood. In contexts like retreats in cabins or natural settings without digital connection, the so-called digital detox cabins, many participants report increased mental clarity, a sense of calm, and greater appreciation for the present moment. This translates into more empathy, more listening, more bonding with those around us. During those days, I felt this firsthand. Conversations with my partner were deeper. Things that once went unnoticed, like a gesture of affection or a shared silence, took on weight, presence, meaning. Interestingly, some studies show that the mere presence of the phone, even without being used, can bring comfort in social situations. This reminds us that the impact of digital technology is complex, but what matters here is the conscious choice, knowing when the phone serves us and when it distances us. That awareness, in itself, is a gift. If you've made it this far, perhaps something inside you is asking for a pause as well. And the good news is, you don't need to wait for the perfect moment or go on a retreat far away from everything. A digital detox can start now, little by little, at your own pace. One of the gentlest ways to start is by creating small phone-free zones. It can be something simple, like leaving the device outside the bedroom at night, or not bringing it to the table during meals. This symbolic gesture already sends a message to the body here: we are present. Another tip is to turn off notifications. Choose which ones are truly important. The rest can wait. You don't have to respond to everything immediately. Silence, at times, is a form of care. If you want to take it a bit further, try activating your phone's grayscale mode. Without the vibrant colors, many apps lose part of their appeal. This reduces usage time effortlessly, almost like magic. And how about a small test? Choose 2 hours of your day to stay away from your phone. It could be at night, before bed, or during a quiet morning. Notice how you feel. What arises when silence enters? What changes inside and out? Remember, it's not about giving up everything. It's about choosing, with more awareness, with more care. You may not transform your relationship with digital life in 72 hours, but you can start a movement, a step toward a fuller presence, a gesture of respect for your mind, your time, and your well-being. If you try it, even just for an afternoon, share it with others. Tell them how it was. Share what you felt. This inspires, this connects. We are rediscovering, together, the value of presence. And it begins the moment we choose to truly be here. All the content you've heard here is based on reliable scientific evidence, reviewed by experts in neuroscience, psychology, and digital well-being.